Hi, I'm Ken Imhoff, and I'm a garage shop fabricator. I got the chance to measure a real Lamborghini Countach in a dealership years and years ago, and a friend of mine called me and said, if you can get over here at noon when the salesmen go to lunch, bring yourself a cloth tape measure and all the dimensions you want, and I'll help you. I'll hold the dummy end and you measure and we'll write it all down. You only have a half hour because they take a half hour lunch. Well, I couldn't sleep that night thinking about this opportunity to measure a real car. Obviously I had posters on the wall and had all the models and everything, but to measure a real car, that was key. So sat up and figured out all the measurements I wanted, like the relationship to the windshield, to the front fenders, the openings for the headlights, this little window here, how wide is this? And I had 168 dimensions, and we knocked it out in 1/2 hour. We waited for the salesman to kind of go out to lunch, and off we went and snuck out the back door when they came back, and that information proved to be very valuable. I wanted to disguise the engine a little bit. It is a Ford 351 Cleveland, which went out of production in 1974. I handmade the valve covers with the return flange going to the inside instead of the outside, and that was all hand done on a CNC mill. I got KIE Engineering on the valve covers. It was my little company off on the side, and they were finned and painted with the wrinkle finish black. I made the exhaust headers by using 2-inch stainless steel tubes. I took them to an aftermarket tubing bender to bend up the little J tubes for me, and I hand welded everything together. It's kind of what they call a bundle of snakes. That's a term used for the Ford racing program where the exhaust comes up over the top. The equipment I used to weld the stainless steel together was a Miller Synchro-Wave TIG machine. I could have opted for wire welding, but I love Miller's TIG machine. Exclusively, this whole car was welded with the Miller Synchro-Wave. This particular Lamborghini Countach is a handmade body out of, again, 062 aluminum, and was formed on an English wheel. An English wheel is a forming tool that was used, in fact it's still used today even in NASCAR for making NASCAR bodies. It's a forming tool that you actually roll the panel between two wheels. It pinches the material down and actually starts to curve it. Now, this particular car has a lot of curves but also a lot of flat areas. Now, one would think that this bonnet right here, that's what they call it in England, is a bonnet, is not flat. It actually does have a curve to it, though it's very slight. I was using an English wheel to roll that slight curve in there. And the fenders have got quite a high crown right here in both directions, which this is probably one of the tougher panels to fabricate. And again, was welded with my Miller Synchro-Wave. One of the challenges I encountered was trying to make some replica wheels for the Lamborghini. Now this is a Chevy bolt pattern, 4 3/4, but what I did was I purchased some BBS rim halves out of Germany, which is the modular 3-piece style, and I hand fabricated the center sections out of billet aluminum, 2 inches thick, 16 inches in diameter, and I think between a friend of mine on Saturday nights, 10 hours a piece. We hand machined them on a old Bridgeport and a CNC lathe. One of the interesting things about a Lamborghini is the air induction that goes through the radiators. They have this air box here and they have these vanes going across. It's a little bit of a challenge to make these. I made these by hand out of 062 aluminum, and I got a 24-inch handbrake that I formed and fabricated myself. And each one of these has a return flange and is physically screwed to here. And the way the angle twists through the body, that probably I spent a lot of time trying to get that to look exactly like the original. One of the most difficult things I think anybody encounter if you're going to build a Lamborghini by hands are the iconic Lamborghini doors. Now there's a single hinge right up here in the front, and they're on a strut, air spring that opens and closes the door. Now getting that balance point to be just correct is probably one of the most difficult things. I started my career in the fabricating business actually from a child on. My dad was a fabricator. He was into cars. I was born in England, which sports car racing is quite prevalent. And I don't have a formal education, but my first job out of high school was in a machine shop, and I learned to run a 21-foot lathe at 16 years old, back when they didn't have a concern about being 18. I'd work nights there after school. Like I said, I don't have a formal education, but I learned a lot. I read a lot of technical manuals. My father taught me how to work with my hands, how to use hand tools. You don't have to buy everything. You can, if you have the knowledge, I think you can fabricate just about your wildest dreams. This car technically is street legal. It is licensed in the state of Wisconsin, though I do believe if somebody was to take a closer look, those are racing slicks on here which are not DOT approved. Decibel reading out the exhaust would probably not do very well if I was pulled over by a police officer.
We're the Imhoff family. We'll see you on FFJournal TV.